Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I am going to talk to you about Google and ChatGPT and some of the erroneous information it's giving people specifically about the Baker Act. So, it used to be people would go to Google to search information about the Baker Act, and then they'd call us and I'd have to say, I'm really sorry, but you're not getting the correct information from Google. And now what's happening is they're going to ChatGPT or other type of AI-based platforms. And again, they're getting the wrong information. And to add icing on the cake, as it were, ChatGPT, when it doesn't know the answer, at least in my experience, it'll make stuff up. And I saw that recently where there was a couple of attorneys who used ChatGPT to draft, some type of pleading, and the ChatGPT cited a case. Okay, they submitted the documents to the court, and it turned out that the lawyer hadn't bothered to check to see if the case even existed. And guess what? It didn't. ChatGPT actually made that stuff up, and now that lawyer or those lawyers, they're in hot water. They have a problem. When a judge, gets ticked off with a lawyer, it's a problem. So what I did was I made a very short laundry list of things that people are actually searching on either Google or ChatGPT and getting the wrong information about. And I'm just going to go through these with you. I'm sure individually I've probably made videos about these in the past, but I'm going to give it to you. So here's the short list of things that you need to know about the Baker Act and when you have a loved one who is stuck in there. I'm just going to spitball this with you. So the 72 hours. 72 hours applies to the length of time that you can be held involuntarily, okay, at either a Baker Act facility or in a behavioral health unit. So what that means is that if you were at a hospital beforehand, that time technically doesn't count. Okay, now there is a window of time within which the facility has to transfer you, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The point is that once you get into either the Baker Act facility, and that may mean they put you in an ambulance and transfer you even across county lines, or the hospital puts you in their own behavioral health unit, that's when the 72 hours starts to tick. So that's when the clock starts to run. Now, if the end of the 72 hours falls on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, or on Monday if it's a holiday, guess what? Those days don't count. They can actually keep you through the weekend and that Monday if it's a holiday. And so they could theoretically don't have to release you till Tuesday. So understand that, right? If the 72 hours ends on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday if it's a holiday, they don't have to release you. Those days don't count. So that's that. Yes, even children can be Baker Acted, okay? Somebody called me a couple of days ago and said, they can only Baker Act people as 13 and up. Not true, okay? I've seen 5 and 6-year-olds get Baker Acted. I've had them as clients. So just understand that. Anybody can get Baker Acted. It only takes 2 things for it to happen: a finger and someone to point it, and that'll get you Baker Acted. I wrote down here, it's usually about the money. Yeah, most of the time, 99 times out of 100, when we get hired on a case, it's because the facility has figured out there's money to be made on this patient. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's how it works. I'm not saying it's right. That's just how it works. So it can be about the money. The facility staff are not your friend. See, sometimes the facility staff, especially if it's a nefarious facility, and we sort of know who those are because we see them all the time, the staff will make out like they're your friend. Oh, just agree to this. Just sign this. Oh, they'll be out in a couple of days if you do this. They are not your friend. I don't care how nice they are. They are not your friend. They are not there to help you. They are employees of the facility. And the facility, even if it's private and for-profit, is an agent of the state of Florida. These people are the state of Florida. They are not your friend. The RTR, the right to release. When somebody is asked to sign a right to release, in my mind, what does that mean? Well, if they're being requested to sign a right to release, the facility should only be asking that if there's a voluntary admission been signed. So there's 2 types of Baker Act. There's the involuntary, that's the one with the 72 hours, and there's voluntary. Yeah, how about that? You can actually agree to be Baker Acted. Now, you're supposed to give informed consent, but it never happens. The facility either just lies to you and says you need to sign this, or they threaten you, if you don't sign this, we're going to go see the judge right now and you'll never get out of here, right? That kind of stuff. And so if there's a voluntary admission agreement, guess what? There's no clock ticking at all. They can keep you as long as they want. No court order, no judge, no lawyer, none of that stuff. So if you're being asked to sign the request to be released, that's where you say, I don't want to be voluntary anymore. I want to go home. Okay, do they have to let you go? No, they don't have to let you go. I know that sounds nuts, right? Because it's supposed to be voluntary. It's not really voluntary. Voluntary is actually really involuntary, except it's worse because there's no clock ticking and they don't have to file anything to keep you. If you sign an RTR, they're supposed to decide if they're going to release you within 24 hours. So once you sign the RTR, they have 24 hours. Either they have to let you go or they have to file a petition with the court. If they file, you could potentially sit there up to another 5 days. And it's 5 days because that's the time frame in which the court has to hear the case from the time that the petition for placement is filed. We had this yesterday, actually, in the office, where a child had been asked to sign documents. A minor cannot sign. Okay, it's not valid. Okay, if you're under 18, you cannot sign anything. You cannot. When I say you cannot sign, I mean you cannot contract something. You do not, under the eyes of the law, it's not valid. And I've seen this happen before. Oh, we have the child sign a voluntary admission agreement. He or she's decided to stay. Not valid, but it happens all the time. You can't sue for this. Yeah, I get this a lot. Okay, I get 2 or 3 calls every single day from people whose rights were violated and now they want to sue. As a general rule, you cannot sue for this. I wish I could tell you otherwise. If I could sue for this, I would have been retired years ago. I'd be sitting on a beach right now, somewhere in the Bahamas. I mean, you get the point, right? I mean, there's no money. You cannot sue this facility because they are an agent of the state. And as an agent of the state, they enjoy sovereign immunity. There's no money in this. I wish there was. With one exception, the facility has a duty to keep you safe. And if you get harmed, and I mean, like, we had a woman that was sexually assaulted. We had somebody else that was badly beaten. We had one kid that upon his release actually blew his brains out. That is the kind of case where we could probably sue. But other than that, right, you lost your job. The neighbor lied to the police. The handcuffs that the officer used to take you to the facility were too tight and you have bruised wrists. You're not getting anything. I'm not telling you it's right. I'm just telling you how this works in the real world. So you can't sue for this. Here's another one. I'm going to call the police. Knock yourself out. The cops can't do anything. Had a case today. They called the police. Police went to the facility and the facility said, get the hell out of here. We're the state. Mind your own business. And the cops left. There's nothing they can do about it. Unless, of course, there's an allegation of a crime being committed, right? Different story. But as a general rule, calling the police is not going to change anything. They have no jurisdiction over this. Canceling insurance money. I've heard that before. I'm going to cancel my insurance. That's not going to change it either. They're going to bill your insurance, and if they don't pay, they're going to bill you too, and they'll come after you for it. So that isn't going to change things. Well, I want my rights enforced. Okay, let's talk about rights, because the Baker Act statute is full of rights. Here's the deal with rights. In fact, any right. What makes rights special, for lack of a better word, is their enforceability. And what I mean by that is that there's the ability to go and complain to a judge that somebody or something out there did you a wrong and you should be compensated for it, right? They should be punished for it. For instance, they violated my right to privacy. They violated my right to freedom, or whatever it happens to be. The point I'm trying to make is that unless you're willing to go and complain about it and enforce your, quote, rights, it's just a bunch of ink on a piece of paper, right? They violated my rights. Okay, what should we do about that? We should go to court. But here's the deal, and I want to be really clear about this because I told you a second ago you cannot sue for this. If you are no longer in the facility, the fact that your rights were violated at some point in the past, unfortunately, doesn't help you because the facility has sovereign immunity. If they've released you, then the alleged harm has passed. In other words, you've been released. You're free. The time to enforce those rights are when, number one, you're stuck there, or your loved one is still stuck there, and number two, the state i.e. the facility, has not yet gotten a court order to extend detention. Because they can, while we can run to court and file to get you out, they can run to court to keep you in. And they'll do it if they're motivated enough, right? And they have a half decent case. So, after the fact, if there's been a hearing and you got represented got represented by the public defender, and I'm not poo-pooing the public defender, but you had a hearing and you had a lawyer there, and now you want to enforce your rights, it's too late. That was the time to do it, right? Either before the hearing or at the hearing. If there's already been a hearing, sorry, that train already left the station. Your rights have left. They're gone. So just a handful of things that people are searching for on Google and ChatGPT and getting complete misinformation on. Okay, I would encourage you, if you want information about the Baker Act and how it works in the real world, right? And I've handled, at this point, over 800 of these things. I've spoken to thousands of families. I had my own family member Baker Acted, and I was there when it went down. And I've traveled all over the state litigating these cases. Okay, go to my YouTube channel. There is a ton of information about the Baker Act, okay? And it's there for free. I want you to get the information you need. So I like to use Google too, and occasionally I use ChatGPT for small things, but they don't know what they're talking about. They've never handled a Baker Act case. They know only what they see, right? What's out there in the universe. So just my 2 cents about Google and ChatGPT. Be careful about what you find on there, because 90% of it is rubbish. It doesn't apply, and it may not apply to the facts in your particular case as well, right? Every case is unique. The facts are unique. It depends which county you're in. Who's the judge? What's the name of the facility? Which doctor came and did the assessment? This stuff all matters. So anyway, enough of that. I've said my piece. If you have any comments or questions, I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say, what your experiences are with Google and ChatGPT and the Baker Act. And feel free to share that with me. This is a passion of mine because of what happened to my family. And if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. If you want me to make a video about an issue that you're seeing and I haven't made one yet, let me know. I'll make a video for you, because if it's affecting you, probably affecting somebody else's family, and I want you to get the information that you need. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want more of this content, which I put out every single day for you, then please subscribe to the channel. And with that said, this was a long video. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.